This is Sergeant Major Elena Kowalski, retired, formerly of the Artemis colonial militia. I was a farmer before that day. Wheat and corn, mostly. Good soil on Artemis-IV. Good life. Then they sent their god to eat us. 14 minutes later, their god was dead in my wheat field. This is Case File 199. This is the story of how 400 farmers killed an immortal. The Heraxi Dominion was ancient when most galactic species were still learning to use tools. Their civilization had risen and fallen and risen again across 10,000 years of recorded history. They had survived wars and plagues and cosmic disasters. They had survived because of their god. The Devourer had no other name. It needed no other name. It was a creature older than the Heraxi themselves, a being they had discovered hibernating on their homeworld when their species first achieved sentience. The Heraxi did not create the Devourer. They found it. They awakened it. And they learned to worship it. Because the Devourer was hungry. It fed on biological matter, on ecosystems, on civilizations. It was massive, kilometers tall when fully extended, and it was always hungry. The Heraxi learned quickly that the only way to survive was to feed it. They fed it their criminals at first, then their conquered enemies, then entire species. For 10,000 years, the Heraxi had been the Devourer's priests. They searched the galaxy for offerings. They found developing civilizations, primitive species, anyone who could not defend themselves. And they fed them to their god. 300 species had been consumed. 300 civilizations, erased from existence. The Devourer had grown fat on extinction, and the Heraxi had grown powerful as its servants. They believed their god was immortal, invincible, eternal. After 10,000 years without a single defeat, who could blame them? When the Heraxi discovered humanity, they saw another offering, another species to sacrifice, another meal for the endless hunger. They did not bother with diplomacy or conquest. They simply selected a target, colony world Artemis-IV, and released the Devourer. 12 million humans. The Heraxi calculated the god would feed for 3 days before moving to the next colony. They were wrong about many things. Most importantly, they were wrong about how humans respond to threats. I was 37 years old when the Devourer came. I had served 2 years in the Federation Marines before retiring to Artemis-IV. Most of my militia unit had similar backgrounds. Veterans who wanted quiet lives, farmers who had seen enough war. We thought those days were behind us. The alert came at 0600 on a Tuesday morning. Colonial Defense Network had detected an unknown biological entity entering atmosphere. Massive, moving toward the primary settlement. We had no warships in orbit, no heavy weapons platforms, no orbital defense grid. Artemis-IV was a farming colony. We grew food. We did not fight wars, but we had rifles. We had training. And we had families living in that settlement. 400 militia members assembled in 47 minutes. Every veteran who could hold a weapon. Every farmer who had ever served. We gathered at the edge of town, in the wheat fields I had planted 3 years earlier. We watched the Devourer descend through the clouds. I will never forget that sight. A creature so large it blocked the sun. Tendrils kilometers long, reaching down toward the earth. Eyes, hundreds of them, scanning the surface for prey. 10,000 years of victories looked down at us. 400 farmers looked back. Our commanding officer was Captain David Okonkwo, 63 years old, 30 years of Marine service before retirement. He had fought in the Krath Rebellion, the Varathi Border War, the Syndicate Uprising. He looked at the god descending toward us, and he smiled. "All right, people. That thing is big. That thing is scary. That thing has apparently eaten 300 species without breaking a sweat." He raised his rifle. "But it bleeds. Anything that bleeds can die. And anything that comes for our families is going to learn what humans do to threats." He pointed at the creature. "Standard engagement protocols. Find the soft spots. Concentrate fire. And if you run out of ammunition, fix bayonets and charge. We are not letting that thing reach our town. Questions?" "No questions." The Devourer touched down 2 kilometers from our position. The impact shook the ground. Wheat fields flattened in waves as the creature's weight settled. It began moving toward the settlement, toward our families. Captain Okonkwo gave the order. "All units, open fire." 400 rifles, 24 heavy weapons, everything we had. The first volley hit the Devourer across its forward mass. Plasma bolts, kinetic rounds, explosive projectiles. A wall of fire from 400 determined humans. The Devourer stopped. In 10,000 years of consumption, no prey had ever fought back effectively. Most species ran. The few that resisted were overwhelmed in moments. Nothing had ever actually hurt the immortal god. Until now. Our weapons were designed to kill. Not to wound, not to discourage, to kill. Every round was optimized for tissue destruction. Every plasma bolt was calibrated for maximum burn. Every explosive was engineered for lethality. We were farmers, but we were human farmers. And humans build weapons the way we build everything else, to work. The Devourer's flesh tore. Its armor cracked. Ichor, the blood of an ancient god, began to flow from 100 wounds. It screamed. The sound was like nothing I had ever heard. A shriek that existed partly in frequencies humans could not hear, vibrating through our bones, through our souls. 300 species had heard that scream before they died. We kept firing. The Devourer turned toward us. Its eyes, those hundreds of terrible eyes, focused on 400 humans standing in a wheat field. It had never felt pain before. It had never experienced resistance. It had never encountered a species that did not run or cower. We did neither. Captain Okonkwo's voice carried across our line. "It's turning toward us. Good. Keep it away from the town. Concentrate fire on the eyes. Let's blind this thing." 40 rifles shifted aim. The Devourer's eyes began to rupture, one after another, as precision shots found their targets. The creature charged. It moved faster than something that large should be able to move. Tendrils reaching, maw opening. 10,000 years of predatory instinct driving it toward the prey that dared to hurt it. We held our ground. At 300 meters, our heavy weapons opened up. Anti-armor rockets designed to kill tanks. Plasma cannons meant for fortified positions. Every piece of military hardware the militia possessed. The Devourer's forward armor shattered. Chunks of ancient flesh exploded outward. One of its primary tendrils was severed completely, flopping uselessly in the wheat. It screamed again, and it kept coming. 200 meters. 150. I could see details now. The texture of its hide, the rows of teeth in its maw, the rage in its remaining eyes. This creature had eaten 300 species, consumed civilizations, been worshipped as a god for 100 centuries, and it was bleeding out in my wheat field. At 100 meters, Captain Okonkwo gave an order I will remember until I die. Fix bayonets. We're finishing this up close. 400 farmers fixed bayonets. 400 humans prepared to charge an ancient god. The Devourer reached our line. What happened next is difficult to describe. Close combat with a creature that size is not like anything military training prepares you for. We were inside its reach, dodging tendrils, climbing its flesh, stabbing and shooting at point-blank range. It was chaos. It was madness. It was 400 humans absolutely refusing to die. Private Torres shoved a grenade into a wound cavity and dove clear before it exploded. Corporal Obi climbed 20 meters up the creature's flank, firing into what looked like a sensory cluster. Sergeant Williams lost her rifle and continued attacking with her bayonet alone, opening cuts in flesh that had never known a blade. I found myself at the base of the creature's primary maw. The teeth were each larger than I was. The opening led to a digestive system that had processed 300 species. I had 4 grenades remaining. I threw all of them inside. The explosions tore through the Devourer's internal organs. The creature convulsed, throwing defenders in every direction. I landed badly, cracked 3 ribs, kept fighting. The Devourer was dying. It did not die quietly. It thrashed and screamed and tried to consume us even as its systems failed. Tendrils still grabbed at soldiers, teeth still snapped at anyone in reach. But it was dying. Captain Okonkwo had lost his left arm to a tendril strike. He stood in front of the creature's largest remaining eye, blood pouring from his wound, rifle raised with his remaining hand. "This is for every species you ate," he said. He fired until the eye burst. The Devourer collapsed. The impact threw everyone nearby off their feet. The creature's massive body crashed down across 3 kilometers of wheat field, crushing everything beneath it. When the dust settled, 400 humans stood around the corpse of a god. The battle had lasted 14 minutes. We lost 62 soldiers. 62 farmers who would never go home to their families. Their names are carved in stone at the center of Artemis-IV's capital city now. But we won. The Devourer, immortal terror of the galaxy, consumer of 300 species, worshipped god of the Heraxi Dominion, lay dead in a wheat field, killed by farmers with rifles. The aftermath was significant. The Heraxi had been watching from orbit. They had expected to see their god feed and move on. Instead, they watched it die. They watched 400 humans do what no species had done in 10,000 years. Their god was mortal. Their god could bleed. Their god could be killed by primitives with basic weapons. Everything the Heraxi believed, their religion, their culture, their entire civilization, was built on the foundation of the Devourer's immortality. When that foundation crumbled, so did everything else. The Heraxi Dominion collapsed within a week. Civil war erupted between those who refused to believe their god was dead and those who had watched the footage. Species that had been conquered by the Heraxi rose up. Worlds that had paid tribute for centuries stopped paying. Within a month, the Heraxi Dominion had fragmented into a dozen warring factions, none capable of threatening anyone, all because 400 farmers refused to run. The Federation sent ships to Artemis 6 days after the battle. Scientists came to study the Devourer's corpse. Military analysts came to review our tactics. Politicians came to understand how a colonial militia had killed an ancient terror. The scientists confirmed what we had suspected. The Devourer was mortal, incredibly durable, incredibly resilient, but ultimately biological. It could be hurt. it could be killed. No species had ever tried hard enough before. Because no species had been human before, we did not run when the god came. We did not negotiate. We did not surrender. We grabbed our rifles, stood in our wheat fields, and killed it. That is what humans do. We see the impossible, and we find a way to defeat it. We face gods and monsters and ancient terrors, and we destroy them. Because nothing is immortal, nothing is invincible, and nothing threatens our families without learning why that was a mistake. I still farm on Artemis-IV. The wheat grows well where the Devourer fell. Its body was eventually removed, but some say you can still see the outline where it lay, a god-shaped scar in the soil. I walk those fields sometimes. I remember the 14 minutes that changed galactic history. I remember the friends I lost. I remember the moment Captain Okonkwo, missing an arm, stood before a dying god and fired until it stopped moving. I remember what humans are capable of when we have no choice but to fight. The galaxy knows now. They have seen the footage. They have studied the battle. They understand that humanity does not worship gods. We kill them. This is Sergeant Major Elena Kowalski, signing off. Case file. 199 is now closed. They sent their god to eat us. 14 minutes later, their god was dead. 400 farmers, standard rifles, one ancient terror. The farmers won. Let that be the lesson the galaxy remembers. There are no gods. There are no immortals. There is only biology. And biology always loses to humans with rifles. Always.